We have volunteers all across the country and 45 House races and nine Senate races who are going out and knocking every door. And we say that in the literal sense and in the figurative sense of they are not skipping doors because someone has a Trump sign in their front yard. They're not skipping doors because someone is too strong of a Democrat and therefore we shouldn't waste time trying to talk to them. We are talking to everyone. We also say knock every door in the figurative sense, because sometimes voters are not home, especially in this economy. A lot of voters are not home when we go knock on their doors because they're working 2 jobs. They're working, and they don't have childcare. They're out of the house. So we also are talking to voters at the grocery store. I went in Alaska just last weekend or 2 weekends ago, talked to voters at a gas station. Wherever we are talking to those voters, what we are doing, what our volunteers around the country are doing, is asking open-ended questions about how folks feel about the direction of our country and what their barriers to voting for Democrats are. And what our volunteers are trained to do is to listen, not to be a policy expert, not to memorize a bunch of focus group tested talking points, but to ask probing questions. And so a classic example of this is volunteers are really freaked out about, well, what happens if I knock on someone's door and they say I voted for Trump? It happens all the time. A lot of the conversations that we're having are with people who voted for Trump. And what we are training them to do in the interest of really listening and understanding in order to then build the trust needed to persuade people. So we say, if they say, I don't know, you want to talk to me, I voted for Trump, ask them the question of, if Donald Trump were standing here on your doorstep right next to me and you had 2 minutes with him, what would you say to him? And 1 in 4 of the very strong Republicans that we are talking to, folks who, in sort of technical speak, we call it their Democratic propensity score, is so low, no Democratic campaign would ever waste time talking to them. Those 1 in 4 of those folks are expressing really strong anti-Trump sentiment. They are very disappointed. They are very angry. They feel like they were sold a bill of goods that, they want a refund. And then 2, they're expressing real openness to voting for Democrats. And I say all of that because trust, again, does not get rebuilt overnight. The first step is listening. The second step is all those volunteer conversations that are rich, that are long. These are like 10, 15-minute long conversations. They're not a 30-second flyer drop. We are taking the insights from those conversations, and our canvassers all have an app where they then hit record and they do a voice memo, repeating back everything that they talked about. And those insights don't just come to me at Swing Left to read an interesting memo about. They make it back to the campaign. We use large language models to then analyze those insights, so that candidates, whether the candidate is curious in their heart of hearts or not, whether they are authentic in their heart of hearts or not, the answers differ from candidate to candidate. We need candidates to be rooted on the ground. And if candidates are hearing from voters, if they're hearing unfiltered the complaints that voters have about them, about Democrats, about the bill of goods that they were sold by the Republican Party, that is how then candidate campaigns can start the tough work of rebuilding trust, of actually investing in persuasion. The art of persuasion has been lost on us as Democrats for far too long. And to us, we think that that is work that needs to start from the bottom up with grassroots volunteers who really, really give a shit about the future of our country and feel infantilized by campaigns too often of like, we've got the perfect message for you, don't worry about it. Volunteers want to be a part of the solution, and they want to make sure that their candidates, whether they are the dream candidate that they've always wanted and that person inspires them more than anybody, or whether it is just the candidate that is going to be their ticket to making sure that we get to a that we end a Republican majority. Either way, that volunteers are a part of changing the balance of power.